I thought just for fun I'd go out portable today. The weather forecast was originally looking good. I thought I'd have a nice cycle somewhere on the edge of a lake maybe, or in the middle of a forest. Take some gear and just see whether I can get some activity on JS8. Or just see if I can work some stations on JS8. So this hasn't gone entirely to plan. First of all, the laptop I thought was charged was not charged. It's currently plugged in and charging. Hopefully I'll have at least 60% battery. I've struggled to find all my equipment. I have the portable antenna, a couple of adapters. I've eventually found the sound card interface and the CAT control cable. And also the 817 I thought was charged. Seems to have... I left the battery connected, and over the last few weeks the battery in that has also failed or discharged. So I now also have a gel cell that I was hoping to not have to take with me, but that is charged, or at least should be charged. Currently about 13 volts, so charged enough I think to get me working. So all of this is going to go in a backpack. I also have my APRS toy as well. Hopefully, if I can get a QSO on JS8, I'll be really happy. If I manage to get a heartbeat, I will be happy, and if I manage to get an APRS packet out, I'll also be happy. I don't have great expectations today. The band conditions are not great. 40 meters, there's activity currently. You'll have to ignore the noise level. I've got a switch mode power supply plugged in, hence the ridiculously high noise. But 20 meters is dead. I was hoping to get some activity on 20. That isn't going to work. And I said the forecast today was originally good. It's now kind of overcast, and the forecast for today is rain. So I'm not going to cycle too far. I'll just go somewhere locally, take a few snapshots of the scenery, and try and work some JS8Call. Back in a minute. So here I am. I've got the backpack, which is now far too heavy thanks to the gel cell. The sealed lead acid battery is weighing that down, so it's lucky that I'm not cycling too far today. I couldn't find all the cables I wanted. I wanted to take a long wire and an external ATU, but I don't have the cables at hand. And adapters and things, so I'm just going to go with what I've got, see what I can do, and hopefully come back with some experience for next time when I plan some further trips. And I forgot to say, the sun is currently shining, so we'll see how long this lasts. And here I am at my local lake. It's really not too far from the house, but it's a nice place to come in the summer. Hopefully a nice place to operate some radio from. So currently in the process of setting things up, I have the 817, the SPX100 antenna attached. I have a counterpoise wire connected to the rear of the radio. Running around the ground. It's only very short, too short in fact, and I've got it connected to my bike frame because I thought, as it's so short, the extra bit of metal may help. I'm going to try running the radio just from the internal battery pack, just for shits and giggles, and see how long that lasts. And I have the SLA there, if needed, which I'm sure I will need it very quickly. Laptop and the cables yet to be connected. I then need to figure out my locator square, add that to JS8Call, try and check or set up the CAT control, although it's not essential, but it would be nice to be able to operate split and try and make the most of the audio tones in the centre of the passband on the 817. I think that's it for now. I'll continue setting up, and you can join me again in a few minutes. First lesson learned: configure the laptop before leaving the house. I was pretty certain I had this running with the FT817 last time I had this set up. Come out in the field and discover the JS8Call still configured to use the ICOM 7300. And everything is connected up correctly. I've changed the baud rate and the port, and it's still not talking to the 817. Now this isn't really a showstopper because I don't really need cat control, but it would be kind of nice. So I've currently, because I've spent so much time trying to get this working, I've connected it to the SLA, the 817 to the SLA, because I think the internal battery would probably already be struggling. So I'm going to continue hacking away at this for 5 minutes, and if I can't get the cat control working, then I'll just go ahead without it, but wish me luck. Okay, so that was strange. With the cat rate set to 9600 on both ends, it was failing. Set to 4800, it works without issue. So one step forward. I don't know why that is. I don't usually use that baud rate, but if it's working, I'm not going to question it. So I've set the locator. I'm not going to bother setting up everything else, as I'm just looking for some basic QSOs. Not too worried about exchanging all the details regarding my setup. So I'll continue working at this and I'll be back in a few moments. So with my trusty IKEA paper tape measure, I've adjusted the antenna for 40 meters. I have a good SWR. The radio, the sound card interface is working. I have the level set slightly incorrectly, which I'll adjust now. But otherwise, I think we're pretty much good to go. So I'll just adjust the input level. I do hear a bit of activity. There's a bit of noise from the laptop that the radio's picking up, and I realised that when the radio's in TX, despite having ferrites on everything, the laptop keyboard input, or rather mouse input, gets a bit choppy. So when it's transmitting, it's a little bit difficult to control, but I don't think that will be too much of a problem. So I'll just get the audio level set correctly, and then we'll be back and ready to try and have a QSO. And yet more problems. This hasn't happened before, but every time I transmit, there's RF getting back down the USB cables, which is causing the USB sound interface to disconnect randomly. So I've disabled the cat control altogether, disconnected the USB device from the cat control. Noise levels on the radio are now significantly reduced, and I no longer have these USB disconnects, so I'm just going to go ahead and start operating without cat. I'm going to try and keep the signals in the centre of the band. The radio's on the correct frequency, so yeah, we'll just wing it without cat. I don't think it's a huge problem. Nice to have, but not essential. So let's try and send a heartbeat. I'm not expecting this to be successful. The antenna is very inefficient on this band. It is pretty much a dummy load, as previous videos have demonstrated. I don't have a sufficient ground plane or counterpoise, but we'll just see what happens. And of course my screen is so small, I can't actually see half the information I need to see. But we can see I've adjusted the waterfall so that it fits in the low resolution display. We can see I've sent a heartbeat, and I see a bit of activity on the band. I don't think it's JS8 though. Probably FT8 or FT4 eating into our band. Or allocation. Or it's not really an allocation, is it? I'll try a heartbeat again. See the power output. I'm wondering if the SWR is... yeah, the SWR. The trouble with the 817 is the meter is not too accurate. And at low power, it looks perfect, and then increase the power, and suddenly you realise things are not so perfect. So I've just adjusted the height. Let's hit tune again and see I think that's marginally better, so I'll continue to adjust this to try and get the SWR down. Hopefully then the radio can dump the full power into the antenna. Dump the full power into the dummy load. But we may as well give ourselves as much chance as we can. I don't know whether I'll get it much better than that, so I'll just leave it there. I can see a CQ call, but I can't see who it was. I guess if I scroll down here, I'll see a station. Let's continue with the heartbeats. Maybe I'll have a bit more luck. I mean, I think really I need to switch to 20 meters, or at least one of the higher bands where the antenna efficiency is a little higher, but given the poor conditions on the other bands, I'm I'm going to be struggling today, I think. But I'll continue and I'll let you know what happens. So I'm still not getting any responses, but I will try sending out an APRS packet. Oh, it's a real struggle with such a low resolution display. But I'll try sending an APRS packet, and maybe there's some receive-only stations that will hear us. So sent an APRS packet. I'm now sending a CQ call. I realised halfway through sending that someone else had jumped on the frequency. But I think that's going to be the problem with just QRP and a dummy load, is the few stations that are on the band are not going to hear me and will end up splattering over the top of me. So this is not too successful at the moment. There's a lot of activity on the band, but I think it's FT8 which is drifting into the JS8Call segment. I don't know whether there's a contest on. I may have to switch to FT8 just to see what's going on, if I have it installed. My only option right now is probably to switch to some of the higher bands and hope there's a bit of activity. So I'm going to switch to 20 meters, and there's never much activity on 20 meters, but I think my chances are probably going to be higher than sticking with 40 here. So I'm going to take my trusty IKEA tape measure, readjust the antenna, and try and tune it for 20, and maybe the cat control will even work without the RF issues. The weather is still grey and overcast, but it is remaining dry. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more time before the rain comes. So the radio is tuned for 20 meters. I have the RF issues again with the sound card interface, where every time I try and click tune, it's disconnecting, reconnecting, and then disconnecting. So there's definitely RF getting on the USB cables. Now I've only got the one cable. It has ferrites. It has ferrites at the back of the radio, and it has ferrites here. I don't have any additional ferrites that I can attach, or maybe I could take that one. But this is going to be a real problem because the antenna is inefficient on the lower bands. On the higher bands where it is efficient, or is more efficient, I'm getting RF issues out in the field, which I wasn't getting at home on previous tests. So I don't really know what's changed. Maybe the power cables are radiating RF and it's too close to the USB cables, but there's not much I can do about it for now. So I'll try removing this ferrite and adding it to this closer to the laptop. Hopefully that may try and clamp down the RF a bit, but failing that, I'm not sure what else I can do. So I've tried everything. I tried switching to 17 meters because I thought maybe if conditions were up then I could run WSJTX and at least get some FT8 contacts today. But every time I transmit, it's knocking out the sound card interface. I've moved the counterpoise away from the bike. I've run it up the land here. The SWR is perfect. I brought a mic as well, so I just checked the SWR with that so I can key up the radio without disconnecting everything. I've tried disconnecting the battery and just running off the internal supply, and it's still got problems. The only thing I haven't tried is moving the sound card interface away from the radio itself. I don't expect that will make any difference, but let's give that a go. And no, same issue with the device appearing and disappearing as soon as I transmit. So I don't know what the problem is, to be honest. I've used this setup many times portable. I've set it up at home, I've used it on the patio table out in the back garden without any issues, exactly the same setup. But come out today and there's obviously something wrong. Something is picking up RF. So it's not looking like this is going to be a particularly successful day. Now I wish I bought a CW key, as at least I could dump the laptop and I could try and make some basic contacts via my very rusty CW. I do have a microphone, but I think I'm going to struggle as well unless the band is open. So I'm going to double check everything, disconnect everything, reconnect everything, try and move things around and see whether I can improve this situation. If not, I guess I'm going to go home with a few lessons learnt and test all this at home, make sure everything's working and come out another day, hopefully a bit more prepared. So perhaps a little frustrating, as soon as I switch the laptop off, the noise level drops significantly and I can hear a whole load of activity on the band. So there is activity out there on 17 meters, which is positive, but I'm not going to work it today, sadly. So I'm going to tune around, see what else I can find. I don't have my CW key. It would be nice to go home today thinking I've made some sort of contact. I don't even have an antenna for 2 meters. I don't think the SPX 100 covers 2. 6 meters is probably not open, so yeah, it's not too successful a day, I don't think. But let's continue and see what I can do. So I've been tuning around. There's not much activity on SSB voice, but I can hear lots of activity on 17 meters, well, most bands actually, below 17 meters and below, on FT8 or JS8Call, but I guess it's FT8. I've tried everything I can. I'm going to give it one last attempt. I've disconnected everything, reconnected everything. I did try responding to a couple of CQs on SSB voice on 20 meters, but low signals, QRP, it's not really working. So I've got everything as separated as far as I possibly can now. I don't have much confidence in this, but I can try. I did take out the Pico APRS. Did you hear that? I don't know whether you can hear that. As soon as the laptop starts doing anything, there's a significant increase in noise level. But it does seem to come and go, so I don't know whether it's when the CPU is busy. I've never had this problem before, never noticed this problem before, so it's a bit of a strange one. But let's see. JS8Call. But it's still not raining, so I guess things could be worse, right? The few people that were swimming have now gone, so I think it's just myself and the mosquitoes. Hear that increase in noise? It's coming from the laptop via the sound card, I think. It's radiating, but it hasn't done this before, and I don't know. I just do not know what has changed. Right, it's transmitting and it's not disconnecting. That's because the radio is in the wrong mode. If I switch it to digital, I think we will be back to the same disconnecting problem. No. But the SWR is sky high because the antenna is adjusted for the wrong band. So I'm going to go back and adjust the antenna. It is now just starting to rain. I'll see if I can get this working, otherwise I'm going to have to call it a day. But back in 2 minutes. And no, as soon as it transmits, the sound card drops. How strange. I've had this for many years, used it on multiple occasions, or many occasions in all sorts of scenarios. Never had a problem. And of course, the one day I try and do something spur of the moment and get out and do something for a bit of fun, it decides not to work. But I guess this gives me something to go away and look into, set it up at home and try and figure out what's going on. Such is the way of radio. And yeah, it's definitely raining now, so I'll try and take a few more photos and then start my cycle back. And yes, getting really quite wet now, so fantastic end to the day. But at least I got a little bit of exercise and got to test my new toy on my bicycle. I'm doing a lot of cycling recently, so I thought I'd treat myself to a little cycling computer. Only pretty basic, but it's nice to know how far I've travelled and what sort of speed I'm doing. I do plan in the future, and the wind is picking up now as well, I do plan in the future to try and get out a bit more portable. I'm discovering that I'm quite enjoying cycling. And there's a lot of countryside around here to get out and explore within a reasonable distance, I think. So if I look at where I'm living, if I consider perhaps up to a couple of hour cycle if I take it easy, it opens up quite a bit of the countryside and some other towns around here. Lots of lakes, of course. Plenty of lakes and forests. In fact, most of Finland is lakes and forests, so yeah, hopefully today has been a good exercise in how not to prepare to go portable. It really was a case of just throwing things in the bag, not even having things charged. But I've kind of learnt that this approach, although it has worked in the past, I think it's more down to luck than any sort of real preparedness. So I think if I'm cycling slightly further afield, I need to be a bit more prepared, check everything before I go, and hopefully get to the bottom of this RF issue, which I've not seen before using this laptop. It's an old EPC. It's very old. I mean, it's Intel Atom. It's only 32-bit. Upgraded the memory recently. It's a nice little machine. It's not usable for most modern applications, but for WSJTX and JS8Call, it's still pretty good. It's quick enough to decode. Not quick enough to do much else, but it is usable for this purpose, and the battery life is fantastic despite being an old battery. So yeah, it's Asus EPC. I can't remember the exact model number, 1001PX or something. But I've never had this RF problem before. So I've used it on multiple occasions and never had this, and that was consistent every time I tried to operate. But I guess no, I've used the SPX 100 with it before. I was thinking maybe the antenna's not very efficient and that maybe there's just too much RF getting in places where it shouldn't because the antenna is not very effective. I've operated it this way before without a problem, so I don't know why today it's causing me so much grief, but there we go. Hopefully this is some use to people, if only just to see my failure today. But hopefully this will lead to another video in the future where I'm a little bit more prepared. So I've got to cross the road now, so I'll say 73s, and yeah, maybe next time I'll have a bit more success. Thank you.